everybody. Happy Friday evening. It is March 4th, 2022. I am one of your co-hosts, Mike Barrera, and as always, Dave Miller is here as well. Dave, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really looking forward to getting to the show. Sixers are on, battling, battling down against the Cavaliers. I mean, it's going to be quite a fun night if the Sixers can pull off a win. But I'm excited for the show. Got a lot to dive into. Obviously, the MLS season is back. The Union are back, for better or worse. They are back, and obviously we can actually delve into and sink our teeth into something.
Yes, I know. There's a lot to look forward to now that the season has started, and then the Sixers, the James Harden buzz around the league as well is kind of making Philly a little bit more fun and bearable to
Yeah.
start the spring season. But before I get onto the show and pull some comments up and get into the nitty gritty, I'll do the sponsors real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of it. First up is Manscaped. Get 20% off Manscaped plus free shipping with code AATBirds at manscaped.com. We have OddsJam, your number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. They use an arbitrage calculator and more, so you never lose a bet again at oddsjam.com. You have Statement Games for a fun and new way to fantasy sports entertainment. Win gift cards and prizes. Free to sign up. StatementGames.com. And lastly, Lot Train Watches. Use AAT Bird for 10% off at the checkout at LotTrain.com. And of course, our AAT Sports Network. We have, let me try to pull this up real quick. We have the Across the Pitch gear as well as every other gear from all the shows at the aatsportsnetwork.com/shop. But before I get on to the rest of the show, I do want to pull up one of the comments from one of our frequent watchers, Adam Cease. Adam, thank you for joining us always. Adam was actually commenting on the show I was on last night, Straight Shooting, with JD and Carm. So thank you for joining me back-to-back nights, Adams. I appreciate it. But Dave, so we've had a week now to think about the past match against Minnesota. For those who live under a rock, the Union had a 1-1 draw against Minnesota this past week. How did you feel about the game now you've had a few days to think about it?
Um, to be fair, I think Jim sort of summed that perfectly in the press conference. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it was sort of like the typical first game of the year, sort of cagey. Both teams are a bit nervous in possession at times. Mistakes obviously going to happen for quite a few players. They haven't played much this year. But I think the one positive was the fact that the confidence the Union showed going forward. They were willing to shoot. They were willing to put crosses into the box. They were willing to attack and be aggressive. I think that was one positive that we did see, although they didn't manage to get a second goal or put out the winner. But I mean, again, it just showed that perhaps they're coming into the season a bit more confidence in themselves. And I mean, Kranza didn't score, and I know a couple of people on Twitter were moaning about Kranza for some reason. But yeah, I mean, again, Kranza did okay for his debut. I mean, there were a couple of like close calls where perhaps the ball, if half a second late or a couple of inches to, a couple of inches behind or whatever, and he perhaps has a goal or two. So I mean, it was a game of fine margins. It was good to see Corey Burke score.
Yeah, I was happy about Corey. I was actually watching him pregame, and he had this really nice shot on net before he went to the locker room. I was like, he's looking good. I like the confidence early on. I was hoping he was going to score, and he ended up finding the back of the net. And I thought he overall played well. The Carranza thing, I'm not entirely overly concerned about. It's
No.
his first game with the team, and at home, get some jitters out of the way. I think Jim mentioned it in the press conference as well. That you could see that they were kind of rusty. They were kind of on edge for the game. Once that final, 20 minutes came about, they kind of settled into the feel of the season a little bit more. But of course, you would rather see that earlier. But it is what it is. It's the first game of the year. But
Yeah.
Carranza, he's going to take time to develop. I mean, he just joined our team recently. We saw that with Daniel Gazdag last year, and I guarantee you that you will see it also with Mikael Ua as well. So let these players develop and kind of get into the chemistry of things. But I thought, without question, Dave, Jose Martinez played the best amongst all the Union players. Agree,
Yeah.
disagree, and what did you think about Jose?
I think that's I agree with that. Jose, I mean, again, your typical Jose Martinez, you got yellow cards. Can't go a game without getting picking up a card. But again, I think he was everywhere. He was, he sort of did if the Union were quite out of possession or if they were wide open, he was that guy holding the fort down. He would, he was in that centre of the park. He was, locking up their attacking players. I think, locked at Rioso and, yeah, I think he had a great game in terms of just controlling possession as well. I think in terms of how comfortable he looked on the ball in possession, he was. I mean, he looked like the Jose Martinez at times like last year, where it wasn't reckless. It was dangerous, but it wasn't reckless. He was in control of what he was doing, and yeah, hopefully he can carry on. I think he's been motivated by the fact he hasn't gotten that move to Europe or to a bigger South American team or whatever he was looking for in the summer or in January. Sorry, and perhaps that's now spurred him on to take another step to try and get noticed and get other clubs to pay attention to him and want to sign him.
Yeah, Jose Martinez looked like somebody who was trying to get sold. I mean, he was playing offensively and defensively some of the best I've seen him in a while. I mean, really, I guess if you want to say like he passed the eye test, right? You could see above and beyond that he was contributing on every single part of that field. And I thought he was outstanding. I really do. And if he's playing like that all year, oh my God, this team can be so dangerous with him back there in
Yeah,
front of that front line. Speaking of the front line, or the back line rather, or the defensive back line. I would say people had their concerns with the defensive back four, specifically Olivier Mumbizo. I've seen plenty of people calling for Nathan Harriel already because of what we've seen out of Olivier to end last year and to begin this year. Dave, what were your thoughts on the goal there? Because I know both of
um,
us were pretty upset with it.
I know he got caught out. It wasn't ideal. And yeah, it just wasn't a great goal to concede. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Olivier. But again, he has defensive deficiencies, and that's something he does need to clean up on. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat him like, oh, it happens because again, it's happened a fair few times this year. I think the goal last year in the Eastern Conference was quite an unfortunate one. So sort of the ball went up in the air and it got lost in the air for him. It happens to players sometimes. I mean, God knows I've seen it happen to Gillingham more than enough. But again, those sort of things happen. But again, I think it is becoming a bit of a rare, too often occurring,
Yep.
too often occurring to sit there and be like, oh, it's okay, we'll shrug it off. It is something he needs to work on. He needs to be more focused. He needs to be more alarming. And even if it's defenders running or attackers running across the defensive line and shifting from right to left, he needs to alert Glesnes or he needs to alert Jack Elliott and go, look, he's moving across. He's your man. We'll move over. As opposed just to watch them let him like run off and move off to focus on the money. I mean, I think there's definitely defensive aspects of his game that he definitely needs to improve on.
Yeah, and then what the problem was too is that so and Jim mentions it in the press conference right after the game as well, is that he gets beat, he kind of recovers, he gets beat again. It just this sequence of poor play. But the problem is, and I saw what Jonathan Tanwall had been posting over the past week. Kai Wagner kind of was ball watching. There wasn't. It's not exactly like his the teammates were exactly bailing him out either.
No, yeah,
Because when he passes it to Lod, I mean, he's just wide open in the middle of the box. Like
it's because
you
Glesnes shifted over, and nobody else shifted over, or people weren't
exactly,
shifting around. So wasn't that? Yeah,
exactly. So by the time I can't remember the player who passed it in. I'm sorry right now, but by the time Mbiza was beat, his player is now in this very awkward angle. He's not going to be able to shoot on net. Of course, the angle's not there with Blake being there, so he has to cut it back in. And you see Jacob is kind of shifted over, but then Kai's like just out in no man's land, up just watching. I'm like, why is this guy so wide open?
yeah,
Because that's a problem. Is it's we saw this last year, and I said this before the season started last week. I said, Dave, the one thing I want to see is that the mental lapses go away. And sure enough, not only was it a mental lapse, but it was another game that started off by trailing early on. And we
yeah,
don't want to see that. If you're going to give up a goal in a tight game in the 70th minute, 65th minute, you fight all game, that's one thing. But to start off another game in the 25th, 26th minute, whatever it was, and to give up a goal that early just puts you in a hole for a team that is not built to climb out of holes, which Jim has reiterated over and over and over. So
yeah.
very frustrating to see that. Um, I don't think it's fair to call for someone like Harriel yet or a change of formation
No,
yet. You have to give him some time. And to his credit, Olivier did kind of contribute to the goal that tied the game up. He did kind of press on the counter, which got the ball released, and the Glessons ended up getting the cross to Corey Burke. But I don't know how much more we can see of this mental lapses before Jim has to make a move. I
yeah. I
I
mean,
really do.
Personally, no, I don't think Carriel's ready. I mean, again, it's obviously great that we're seeing so many of the young kids coming in, but I don't think Jack McGlynn looked too impressive when he came on. I don't think he looked like he was making that much of an impact when he came on Saturday. I think he struggled a little bit. Paxton did okay, but again, it's not like people came away from the game and like, oh, Paxton Aronson looks fantastic here, yada yada yada. If you know what I mean, like, um, yeah, I think that's just my full assessment of things. I don't think the other kids that came on were that impressive either.
No, nobody really impressed me too much. I mean, and even Kurt, again, going back to the press conference after the game, Curtin said, like, for this team to win and for this team to succeed, everybody has to play well. Everybody has to
Yeah,
really play not great, but just good enough to help each other out. There wasn't enough people playing to that level. There was
no,
Corey Burke, Jose Martinez, of course, playing great, and then of course you have Andre Blake being Andre Blake. But
made a couple of
besides,
good saves.
he made a huge save at the end of the game when it was in a stoppage time. You had the one of the attackers went behind the back line, and next thing you know, it's 1-on-1 with Andre, and he's just does Andre Blake things. And it's funny because I was listening to the other reporters in the press conference, and they were talking about how he makes a very difficult save look really, really easy.
Yeah,
And it's almost to the point where we don't exactly get blown away by it anymore. We're just so used to it. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
I'm
It's
used
like
to it. Yeah,
you expect him to do something great every single time. So when he does it, you're like, ah, all right, it's Andre
okay,
Blake, whatever.
yeah.
But when you see somebody else do it, you're like, oh my god, Tyler Miller just did what? Oh, that's insane. But it's every day for us now. But yeah, it wasn't a good enough effort overall. The substitutions, though, I believe probably what we expected, right? Did you expect those substitutions to come in? It was Santos,
Um,
what was it, Jack McGlynn and Paxton, the
yeah.
three.
Um, Probably, I think it was. I mean, the pattern, the game, and the way you were looking to score a goal. It probably was. There was sort of attacking minded changes you'd make, especially taking Leon Flack off as well, who's probably more defensive minded. And I keep saying it again, he should be playing in that role in front of the back four, and let Jose Martinez playing a more advanced role. I don't know why Jim doesn't experiment with that, because obviously we've seen Jose plays out on the right hand side for the Venezuelan national team. So yeah, that's a sort of my take on things. I think he should be playing further forward, more advanced. Yeah, it's as frustrating as it is. It's just one of those things, and again, I think again it's one of those things that the team can continue to improve upon and develop on as the season goes on. More. Improving in attack. Leon Flack again, as we consistently say, he's only 21, 22 years old.
Yep.
There's a lot of room for him to develop in. So if Jim's confident and can play down that left hand side, but I guess also him playing on the left hand side allows the Kai to have that more to be more be more free, allow him to get push on, be more advanced with his play. So again, I think it sort of swings and roundabouts as to how um how this team works. I think obviously with Olivier, obviously you have Ali out on the right hand side. He's more of a defensive minded, work rating player, which allows Olivier to go bomb further forward, and it works the same with Kai as well. So
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. So I I feel like you and I have discussed this before at one point. And I see it get brought up on Twitter again and again. And I don't know. For me, I don't agree with it necessarily, but people are concerned that the defensive back four are so involved in the offense. And people are saying, oh, well, why is it that a center back has to go out of position to make a cross to create the offense? Why can't the offensive players create that? For me, I'm thinking, but that's the system that they play in. It's the fact
yeah,
that the defensive players and the outside players are so involved with the offense. Even the center backs are so involved with the offense. It makes your team so much more dangerous because the defense can't just simply stop the front four or the front three and then call it a day. They have to be aware of everybody who has a touch on the ball. Even somebody like Jose Martinez, who doesn't really have a good shot on net, but he still can contribute. Do
yeah.
you are you in agreement to me, or do you feel like the offense needs to step up more, and it cannot always
Um,
be driven from the back? Because I feel like you might be on the fence here with me.
I feel like you can't always rely on your back full to be your attacking drive. I mean, of course, you want to see your defenders playing positive passes forwards and positive areas, as Jim likes to call them, the green areas of the pitch. You want to see them,
Yeah,
switching the play, getting the ball into the feet of the striker, and trying to feed. If the a striker's making a run in and you've got the ball on the halfway line, perhaps trying to play that risky pass. If you know you've got the support there in front of you to back it up if it doesn't pay off. But I mean, to see them. sometimes going out wide to deliver crosses. And I think the biggest thing last year this team's problem was when the height of your attacking Kasper Schmeichel was. I mean, okay, I mean, not to bring him up too much, but again, he was so isolated at times last year.
Yeah.
And I think obviously England, you see it with England and Harry Kane, where Harry Kane gets isolated a lot. Harry Kane likes to come out and play, be it with the ball, which Casper did quite a lot last year. And when you get those good crossing positions, you're there, and so like Kai's got the ball on the left hand side. You're like, I'm going to put the ball in the box. Oh shit, the guy that I'm meant to be crossing to stood right by me. I'm not going to cross it now, am I? And it happened. And I think again that was such a big issue last year, and I think that's why the centre backs had to, perhaps be a bit more advanced and be a bit more attacking minded because the team does lack attacking minds and going forwards. I mean, apart from Daniel Gazdag and the two forwards, it's sort of very much isolated to what you have in attack. Of course, you want to have that balance. You want to allow your fullbacks to attack, which I understand, but at times it does come at a cost, and we've seen it often. We saw it in the CONCACAF Champions League in that second leg against Club America, where there was just no real attacking force going forward. And we've seen it at points last year as well, with the attacking sort of. I'm trying to think of a game where it was just really poor last year. I mean, did the DC United one where they scored
The one at DC United, you're talking about that, the own goal, right?
the own goal, and that was about it. And
Yeah.
they had nothing the rest of the game. And that sort of,
Okay.
again, they had one or two players in attack, and the rest of the time there was no one really there. And I think again that just those are sort of games where you could really do and just keep pressing this because it allows you to change the way you play. It allows you to change the system and it keeps your opposition on your toes. It's to get a quick, pacey player who can play out wide, you can get on the ball and just run and run and run, and just keep running the whole game and keep their defense stretched or keep that fullback stretched. Because the Union, at times when they are pinned back, you don't see Kai and Olivia go forward, and so at times, and we'll see again this year, I'm sure. At times, this team will literally just be on the number 10 and the two tens if they go with the Christmas tree, or the 10 and the two strikers. It will
Yeah.
just be those three up against a back four or back five or six or midfield, because Annie Bedoya and Leon Flack are sometimes ineffective in attack. They're too conservative. And
Sometimes ineffective in attack.
well, I mean, I'm being
Yeah,
nice.
I
I'm
know.
being nice. I'm being nice there, but and then probably your best midfielder out of the three, who's better attacking wise, more confident in taking the ball forward and being aggressive. And Jose Martinez, he's 30 yards back in front of the back four,
Yeah.
and that's the frustrating thing is that's where again I'm referring to the game, that DC game last year, where they had no attacking output. You stick a pacing out there and just go, okay, I'll give you the ball and just run and just keep running at them. Their fullbacks don't pin you in deep, because that's what happens is when you have no pace, your opposition knows that they can just press up onto the halfway line and keep you pinned in. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
no disrespect to Corey Burke and Julian Carranza, they're going to be looking at them and going, and even Gazdag can be looking at them and going, they're not going to outpace us.
Right.
Even if they
Which is
get beyond us, we should be able to get back and catch them back. As opposed to when we do see when Sergio Santos plays, that's when the opposition does play off and the Union have a lot more space in front of them when they do attack. And we even saw that at points on Saturday when Sergio came on. But again, it's just getting more pace in the team and having more creativity in that midfield, which, again, when you play tough teams, which Montreal will be a tough game at the weekend. I know they lost to Orlando, but this weekend they'll present a tough task. And if the Union lack that attacking intent and that attacking driving force, they could easily see the attackers isolated, and they could easily see their limited options going forward and be lack possession, be pinned in. I think that's the big thing they have to worry about this weekend.
so you segue into the next point that I had, but I think you also I'm going to answer my own question too. So for one, I love the fact that the defensive back four are so involved in the offense, because when the offense is having an off night, you do have an alternative. There is not
Yeah,
just simply, oh, we're stuck here, we can't make any sort of offensive push. So
yeah,
for me, I 100% understand the concerns. I get it. You don't want to have everything come from the back, but at the same time, it just makes your team more dangerous. And when you put somebody like Mikael out there or Sergio, it just makes you more lethal. And
yeah,
if you saw, and now going to your Sergio part, for one, he had gotten off a plane that morning, that very morning of the game for against Minnesota. So the fact that he even played is awesome. Credit to him. I really didn't think he was going to play, even though he's healthy.
yeah,
But it's not a coincidence that Jim says that the final 20 minutes of that game was when they played better, and Sergio Santos was in that game for the final 20 minutes. And if
yeah,
you watch that final 20 minutes, they were the more dangerous of the two squads, without
Yeah,
question.
because there
So
was more
it's
space in front of them to attack into. And again,
exactly.
I'll let you finish your point, but I've got another point about the defenders and centre backs in a minute. But I was going to say, you finish your point, and I'll move on to my
Oh,
point.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. No, no. I was. My end to that point was the fact that you need somebody like Ua who has a bit more pace and speed. You need someone like Sergio to not have that reliance on your back four. And I think if you consistently get that, if you get Mikael out there every single match, and if you get Sergio in there for 30 minutes a match, you relieve the pressure from the back four, and I don't think you
Yeah,
see as much offense generated from them
yeah,
solely. But to your point, but kind of segueing to what you've discussed this past week on Twitter, you were able to be on the press conference with Jim Curtin this week, and you also have some news regarding Mikael as well. So go ahead and
yeah.
kind of go on your thing there.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, going back to obviously the
Yep,
centre
go ahead.
backs thing as well. When I think what teams but people don't realise as well is that the centre backs gets more involved, or their involvement in the team is a lot more heavier when when you play teams that sit off and the teams let you have this possession inside their half, and they're fine. I mean, I think Minnesota were like that at points on like Saturday, and we've seen it at times throughout last season as well. But the biggest issue that you face is when teams are when they're against teams that put the pressure on them. They're happy to push up against the centre backs. They apply a high press. They play a high tempo game and put pressure on the Union. That's when they struggle to break out of the opposition of their own half.
Yep.
And when the centre backs can't get involved, and they're not that sort of they're not that catalyst to get attacks started. That's when we see them struggle the most, and that's when we see the strikers at the most ineffective points, and players like Gerstag and Jamir Montero at the most ineffective because they're so isolated. When they do get the ball, it's sort of like, oh shit, I've got three players around me, and I've only got one player to pass to out of like everything. I think that's the biggest issue is the fact they haven't got enough either width, they haven't got enough pace to drive them up the pitch. And again, I think that's the biggest issue this team comes under when they do play like a high pressing team, say if they end up, playing a New England Revolution or
Right.
a team that does enjoy to play possession, Orlando that enjoys having possession, pressing you high up the pitch, dominating possession, dominating the ball and pinning you inside your own half. That's when you see the attacking output limited. The centre backs become isolated and limited in what they can do. And then obviously when you're just lumping it up to one striker or two strikers against four defenders or three on two, that's when you start to see the struggles and the ball just keeps coming back to you. I think that's something they need to address, whether it's in the summer or even if they're game plan now. But again, obviously, moving on to Jim's press conference from yesterday. Obviously, I did sort of a mini tweet thread looking at the press conference and sort of the key quotes. Really, I didn't want to do everything word for word because you don't want to like cram everything in there. But so obviously, Jim, it wasn't too negative, or not too negative. It wasn't like too what's the word?
Too pessimistic, down on
Too
himself.
pessimistic or
Yeah.
too like controversial or anything like that. Just your typical what he says in every press conference,
Right.
the opposition that we've got this weekend, they're a good, well organised team, they look solid, their manager's done a great job, yada yada, that sort of stuff. Which is fair. I mean, again, obviously Montreal are gonna be an interesting test because I think after the game against the Union, they have a CCL game midweek. So it's going to be
Yes.
interesting to see how they approach the game. Do they play it with sort of a lesser lineup and go full out for the Union? So I think that'll be a point of interest. Again, obviously, I think another point that will be interesting is the fact they play on turf and they play indoors. That's
Mhm.
going to be a very similar to the Atlanta United game that they obviously played last year. And again, they've played Montreal beforehand anyway, so it's not going to be like something new. On obviously Mikel as well. He will be ready to play. If
Yep.
it's off the bench or if he's starting, he'll be there ready to play. Jim's been impressed with what he's done in training this week. He scored plenty of goals. He's shown good movement and shown the speed he possesses. And again, obviously, Jim confirmed that he will be in the squad, whether he starts or he's on the bench. He will be coming on in some capacity, whether it's a 5 minute appearance at the end or start. Who knows? I think again we were discussing this before the show. Romel Kyoto, who's arguably one of the most influential players, Montreal's one of their most influential players, is
Mhm.
suspended for the game. He got sent off against what's called Orlando City last week when they lost 2-0. But again, Jim made a very, very quick comment to say, okay, yeah, they've lost one of their better players. But they still got Kai Kamara, who's arguably one of the best MLS one of the best strikers in recent years in the MLS. He scores goals every single year. So just because he's out doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park. They've still got some very good, talented players and goal scorers. Um, and again, there's no injury concerns. I mean,
Yeah, that's
you're as
nice.
shocked as everyone. Sergio Santos came out of a week of training healthy. So yeah, that's going to be a positive thing for the Union. They've got a full team to select from, which I think they rarely ever really had last year. I mean, there was always at least a couple of players injured, whether it was
Always.
Sergio, Corey Burke,
Ilsinho.
it was Senior, yeah, Christ, Senior.
Yeah, you had the concussions with DeVries and Fontana Lily every single week. I feel
Mm,
like one of them was in concussion protocol for at least 4 or 5 months.
both were, yeah. They
Yeah,
both
but
were.
that's a funny thing with Jim is that anytime he has a press conference about the team that he's about to play, he never gives them any sort of bulletin board material. It's always they're this great team, they have these
Yeah,
great players. He keeps it very very textbook with his
yeah.
response, which is great. Um,
Very vanilla.
Yes, very vanilla. He will be more critical of his own team, which is nice. 'Cause you like to see that truthful side of him. It's never just well everybody's great, everybody's doing fine. I do like that he gets a bit blunt at times, but when it comes to the other team before a match, never. After a match,
Yeah,
as we saw last year with the NYCFC press conference, he will get a bit more open with what he says. But
yeah,
if you're looking for any sort of amazing quote pre-game press conferences from Curtin are pretty much as textbook as they get. You
yeah,
can kind of copy and paste every single time. But to the point, though, with what you said with their absence or with their game on Wednesday, I think that is more important than the fact that they're missing one of their best players.
yeah.
Because I mean, the season just started. The season is just underway. If you lose a game, it's not the end of the world. You still have
No,
all season to go. If anything, look at the Philadelphia Union and the example they set last year. They came out of the CCL in the semis in ninth place, and they ended up making the Eastern Conference Final. So really, if there ever was a time that Montreal maybe rests a few players or maybe makes some early subs or changes things up,
yeah,
this might be the game. And I was as soon as you kind of mentioned it, it reminded me to look at the sports book. So FanDuel currently has Montreal at plus 135, but the Union are only plus 190 as the away team, as the away favorite, and the draw is plus 210. So I mean, honestly, I'm kind of tempted to do maybe a same game parlay with the away plus 190 well with over half a goal and see what
yeah,
that pays out to. I think the Union could go on the road and take one away. They are the healthier team or the healthy team, right, I should say. They have their complete roster. And you do have the energy of having, Ua out there for 25 minutes. That can make, as you saw last week, that can make a world of difference if
yeah,
Sergio and him both come on and replace Julian and Corey Burke. And at the same time, you're hoping to see now the rust shake off from last week as well. So I,
absolutely.
I I think there is some optimism to be had here. And then on top of that, you come back home afterwards to face off against San Jose. So I hope they don't look ahead to any sort of match and they say, okay, let's just focus on today. We should be able to handle San Jose next week and
Yeah.
kind of take care of business. But to the point about Ua, I mean, how many minutes do you think he's going to get this week? I would say 20.
Um, I don't know. From the way that Jim spoke, I think he might start him.
Yeah.
Um, I think he might start him. I think this is the sort of game he'll start him in. But I know it's a difficult one. I mean, obviously, listen to the way that obviously, as you said, like go back to the Montreal thing. Okay, it's okay to drop points, and Jim made that point as well. Like you can afford to drop points at the end of at the start of the season, in this sort of stage, because you probably make them back up later on when the CCL's over.
Yeah.
But it's not like you have to come third or fourth to win the MLS Cup. You could easily come sixth, seventh, eighth seed and still go far, or potentially even win it. I know you have to play on the road a bit, but you can still have a chance of going deep. I mean, we saw it's not like having the one seeds that big of an advantage. We've seen it in the Eastern Conference the last 2 years now. Union got knocked out, and the obviously New England Revolution both got knocked out after just wiping the floor in the Eastern Conference. So it's not like it's a easy gateway through. I mean,
Same with Seattle. Didn't Seattle get knocked out by Real Salt Lake?
yeah, they
Right,
did. I
in
mean, Real Salt
penalties.
Lake, who
Yeah. Hmm.
Real Salt Lake, who like probably I think they were the lowest seed. I think
Yeah,
yeah,
Real.
Real Salt Lake were the seventh seed last year in the Eastern in the Western Conference, and they ended up going to the conference finals.
Against
And
Portland. That's right.
yeah, exactly. And obviously NYCFC came fourth. they won the entire thing, and I think looking at Portland, they came fourth as well. So it's not like you need to come in the top three seeds. As long as you're in there for the dance, you got a chance.
Yeah.
So again, I think for them, it probably they might end up just sort of throwing away the early part of the season. If we can get we just pick up a point or 3 points here or there, we've got a really good chance of getting half decent seeds and going deep in the playoffs, which I think can be a interesting. It'd be an interesting thing for the Union to see how Montreal do approach the game. Do they play it? Do they go with an aggressive sort of approach, or do they just chuck out half their second team, reserve team, and just say go up there, just play with freedom, and see what happens? That could be their approach to the game on Saturday. Of course, we don't want to undermine them or think that they're going to put this is going to be a walkover because it's probably going to be the furthest thing from it.
Yeah, I agree. If you're a betting person like myself, I would probably wait till the lineups come out, which is about
Yeah,
20, 30 minutes before the game starts. You might see a few changes from Montreal, excuse me, that maybe would not have been otherwise on a normal match. So if you're looking to bet the game, I'd say wait until the last hour, um, just to see, because you never know. Or if you can hit it live as well. If you
yeah,
notice something that's unique there, but I know. I hope they don't go in there underestimating them,
no,
um, or overestimating, I guess you'd say, if they are playing the backups and stuff like that. But at the same time, I do want to see. I want to see a good effort overall from the Union. I don't care if they're playing the backups or they're playing the starters.
yeah,
If they're playing Montreal backups, if they're playing a few of the B team, then act like you are the better team out there. Go ahead and dominate them. If you're playing the A squad the
yeah.
entire time, then make it competitive. And as we saw last year with the road issues, I just want to get out of there with a road point. That for me is a win tomorrow. Get
I
in
mean, I
there.
think as I said, it's funny you mentioned the road form, the away form from last year, because Christ, they were dreadful away from home last year. Um, so again, I think nothing's going to be a guarantee. That's what I said. Nothing's going to be a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee in this sport anyway. But there's no guarantee they're going to come out of there with a win tomorrow. With how poor they are away from home. So I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a difficult game, irrespective of who they come up against.
No, you're right. And I was just looking at the CCL game. So they actually traveled to Mexico City to play Cruz Azul on Wednesday for the first of the two legs. So it's not like this is even the second leg where we're already out of it. This is kind of just a game for, whatever. No, this they have a chance to get into that second leg with a legitimate lead in that round. So if anything, this might be the game they kind of go for it and see how far they can get to. So I'm excited to see what they put out tomorrow. Again, the game's at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So for you, Dave, it's be 9 o'clock p.m. for
Yeah.
you. But focusing on the match, as we discussed last week, what are you looking for in terms of the overall the roster and the overall expectation for the team? What are your expectations for tomorrow, and what are you hoping improves from last week?
Um, I mean, obviously, you want to win the game. I think again, obviously, we discussed in last week, and we've discussed it in past weeks. The Union notoriously start seasons poorly.
Yep.
Um, this is the sort of game you want to break the trend with. You want to come out and win this game. I'm not going to say comfortably. You want to go out and win this game, no matter. I don't really mind. This is the early part of the season. I'd rather see the teams win than playing this luxury football and looking really silky and fancy and coming away losing 2-1. Everyone's like, oh, we looked really fun. Yeah, we looked exciting in the way we attacked the game. I don't give a shit. Just win the game. Like you can sort out the finer details later. If you're playing poorly and winning, yeah, I think that's something. You're playing poorly and winning against solid opposition as well. It's not like you're playing Austin, Austin FC or um, what they called Austin FC,
Or
Charlotte,
Charlotte, yeah,
FC
Charlotte.
Cincinnati. Crikey, that's a bloody train wreck over there. But it's not like you're playing crap teams at night. You're playing a decent team playing in the CCL. So if you can go there and win, play poorly and win, or if you can go there and just put in a solid performance, and even if there are fine details that need to be perfected in future weeks, just go there and win, and that builds the confidence, and then you can sort of start to build off what you did well and improve what you didn't do so well, as opposed to playing okay and drawing, and not sort of I don't know how to explain
You're
it, but
not
sort
you
of
you don't want to just be happy with that point. You want to go out
yeah,
there and show. Okay, no, I get that. I think you're kind of on track with what I want. I know. I think expectation wise, you should go out there and win. I think that's what you want to go for. You're not just going to try to go home with a road point. As you mentioned last week, getting those points, those 3 points on the road, really makes a difference towards the end of the year. So kind of
Yeah,
get the momentum. But for me specifically, I need to see Olivier have himself a monster game. I want to see him have the best game possible because you end last week or last year as the person who all the blame comes down to, and then this week everybody's focusing on you again for the wrong reason, right?
yeah,
I want to see him have a huge game, whether it be an assist, whether it be just some great defense, make an impact on the match on a positive way. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to this week. On top of that, I want to see Jose Martinez continue to play the way he did last
yeah.
time, and not. I know he got the yellow card. I can't remember what it was for. Just
For a stupid foul.
it was something dumb. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was just a hard tackle. I thought it
Oh,
was a little bit harsh because he didn't really get a warning before that. He played a pretty clean match up to that, in my
yeah,
opinion, at least. So I thought it was a bit of more of a reputation card than anything. But
yeah,
besides the point, I want to see him keep that level of energy, that same intensity up. So if he can play that way, Mabaza can step his game up. But I think Curtin highlighted this a bit too last week, is the fact that this game that we saw last week was a bit choppy. It didn't really have a good flow to it. It was very
no,
much stop and go, stop and go. And if you're thinking about someone like Carranza, that could affect how he played that game because it was so much stop and go. So I want to see a more fluid match from both of these teams. A fluid match, not so much stops in the game. And we had 7 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the game. I mean, it was just you could tell it was a lot of breaks in between.
yeah.
Um, so
But I was
yeah,
going to
go
say
ahead.
with Carranza, I'd also want to see him be a bit more confident.
Yes.
Trying to turn his man and try a shot from range. Trying to be a bit more aggressive, things such as that. I mean, because last week we saw it too often as well when he was in quite good areas. Where he had space to turn. It wasn't like he had a player up his backside and if he didn't pass it straight away, he was going to lose the ball. He had space to turn, and he was just quickly playing off 1-2s and then trying to make that extra run where the ball was never going to get to him and where he was running towards. So if the Union, be a bit more confident, be not afraid to try and turn and run at your defender and have a go, as
Yep.
opposed to quickly just playing quick 1-2s and then trying to make an unrealistic run. I think if we can do that and be a bit more aggressive in attack, that'd be a good start for.
Yeah. So I think perfect segue right there. I want to see the fluidity of the game improve to do exactly what you're saying. Be more involved, be more aggressive. And we even saw Leon Flock take a shot on that. So if Leon can do it, damn it, Karans, I need you to do it also. I need you to get in there. But also Corey Burke, keep that up because he played great. I think he's going to start again today or tomorrow. I know you're thinking maybe Uwas starts, which is fine if he does. That go for it. But if he doesn't, have Corey come in there and be that offensive presence that he was last week because he did. He played well. He really played well, and he had a great
Yeah.
shot on net. And I thought he could have had 2 goals. To be perfectly honest with you, but as we wrap up the show, Dave, what is a early prediction for you for the tomorrow's game, and who do you think will score tomorrow?
Go 1-1. I like them to win, but just their record on the road and their track record on the road just doesn't fill me with any confidence. I'll go 1-1 and I don't just score. I'll go optimistic. I'll say Kai Wagner free kick.
Oh, okay. Kai Wagner free kick. I like that. So I think it's going to be a bit high scoring tomorrow. Even the odds suggest that it could be a bit of high scoring. So I'm going to go 2-1. I think they do pull it off because the Montreal will be looking ahead to Wednesday. So I think that does play a factor. I do also think that they played better towards the end of the game in Minnesota. I think that will carry into tomorrow's match. So I'm actually pretty optimistic. I have a good vibe for tomorrow. So 2-1. I think we have another goal from Burke. I think he can find the back of the net because similar to Casper, when Burke kind of gets going, sometimes he gets going a little bit too. So
Yeah,
I think he can continue his good form, and I would like to see a goal from somebody like Daniel Gazdag tomorrow. Get one
yeah,
in there, get his momentum going. So hopefully
I agree.
2-1 is the score. If not though, if I'm being more of a realistic and less of a fan, I probably agree. 1-1 is probably what we're going for tomorrow,
Yeah.
which is fine. I'll give me a road point, go home, but let's push for the win tomorrow. Any last thoughts, Dave, before we sign off?
Uh, Nothing really. I mean, obviously, just go in there, get a win, just win the game tomorrow. Doesn't by all means necessary. Just get the win, get your season on track,
Yep.
start to build some confidence into that San Jose game, which is probably a game that you look at in the early part of the season. You think the Union should probably win against San Jose, but I think if you can go on the road to Montreal, Champions League team, and get a win there, no matter who they're playing, in terms of the players that they're playing, that's a statement win. That's a win that'll make not just Union fans, but teams around you go, okay, look, they've got that road win against a decent Montreal team. So I think
Yep.
setting that standard and getting a benchmark win early will do them good. Put them in good stead.
Also relieves the pressure of having to win against San Jose, because that's the reality. Because you know how Philadelphia Twitter is. If they go to Montreal and they don't win or they lose, immediately San Jose is a must-win game. Carranza sucks. Fire curtain. Andre Blake's washed up. Then all of a sudden, everything starts falling apart. So go in there, have a good performance, come home, and it's a little bit less pressure to get the win against San Jose. But anyway, guys, wrapping up tonight. Tomorrow, Dave will be covering the match for us, I
Yeah,
believe, right? So Dave's on the match report tomorrow. I'll be watching as well, and so we'll be active on Twitter. Stay tuned afterwards for the press conference with Jim Curtin, as always, and then we'll be back again next week on Friday, most likely, and then Saturday they play against San Jose,
yeah,
7:30 following week. So it should be a good one. Jamiro Montero makes his return to Philadelphia that game. So we'll have to
yeah.
watch him this past weekend to see how he plays. But anyway, have a good night, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Doop.